Namaste everyone. Welcome to Prepare with Lakshmi. Today we will be doing the final part of epithalamion, that is part 3 of epithalamion. I have already uploaded part 1 and part 2 of epithalamion by Edmund Spencer. When will this long weary day have end, and lend me leave to come on to my love? How slowly do the hours their numbers spend, how slowly does sad time his feathers move. Has thee, O fairest planet, to thy home within the western foam. The tired sweet steeds long since have need of rest. Long though it be, at last I see it gloom, and the bright evening star with golden crest appear out of the east. Fair child of beauty, glorious lamp of love, that all the host of heaven in ranks do lead, and guidest lovers through the night's dread, how cheerfully thou lookest from above, and seems to laugh atween thy twinkling light, as joying in the sight of these glad many which for joy do sing, that all the woods them answer, and their echo ring. When will this long weary day have end? Now here the poet Spencer is asking, when is this long day going to end? He is getting frustrated because we said this is a summer solstice. Means it is not going to end fast. This is the longest day and has the shortest night. He is frustrated that the day is not ending, and he is asking, when am I going to meet my lover? So the evening is not yet come, the day is so long. How slowly do the hours their numbers spend, how slowly the hour is moving, how slowly does sad time his feathers move. Feathers means wings. He is saying why the time is moving so slowly. Has thee, O fairest planet, to thy home within the western foam. Now the poet is calling, O fairest planet, the sun god. He is saying, according to Ptolemy, sun circles around the earth. So he is saying, O fairest planet, to thy home. You go home, you set in the west. He is saying, sun, please set in the west fast. He is calling the sun, O fairest planet. Why he is saying the tired steeds long since have need of rest, means the horses which pull the sun have gotten tired, and for a long time they need a rest. They have been waiting for their rest. Long though it be, now he changes his voice. He says, long though it be, okay, after a long time, at last I see it gloom, at last I see the darkness descend, and the bright evening star with golden crest appear out of the east. And he is saying, I can see the evening star appearing out in the west, appearing out of the west. He addresses the evening star as fair child of love and glorious lamp of love, that all the host of heaven in ranks does lead. Means the very first star appearing in the evening is the evening star, and as it appears to be the first star to emerge at night, this is the star that is going to lead the other stars. This is the leader star. That is why he says in ranks it does lead the other stars, and he is requesting this evening star to guide the lovers to their night bedchamber. So he is requesting, he is eagerly invoking the evening star to lead the bride and the groom to their bedchamber. Okay, and of these glad many which for joy, who are glad many? The wedding people who have been enjoying the wedding are the glad many people who are singing and enjoying the day. Now seize ye damsels your delights forepast. Enough is it that all the day was yours. Now day is done and night is nigh fast. Now bring the bride into the bridal bowers. Now night is come. Now soon her disarray, and in her bed her lay. Lay her in lilies and in violets and silken cottons over her display, and ordered sheets and arras coverlets. Behold how goodly my fair love does lie in proud humility. Like unto Maya, when as Jauher took in Tempe, lying on the flowery grass, twixt sleep and wake, after she weary was with bathing in the Acidalian brook. Now it is night, ye damsels may be gone, and leave my love alone, and leave likewise your former lay to sing. The woods no more shall answer, nor your echo ring. Now he is saying, now stop. Cease means stop, you damsels, you virgins, you stop your delights. Four past, enough is it. Means he is saying enough. This is now night. You stop your delights. You stop your happiness. And the day was yours. The whole day you have been enjoying. Now day is done. Day is finished. And night is nearing fast. Nearing fast means nearing fast. And he asks the damsels to bring bride into the bridal bowers, bridal chambers. And now night is come, now soon her disarray, means to help her undress and make her lie on the bed. She will be lying on the bed on lilies and on violets, the flowers, and silken curtains over her display. She will be putting on over her silken curtains and odored sheets, means perfumed sheets she will be having, and arras coverlets, means the covers or tapestries which are embroidered, she will be putting over her. And he is saying, look at my goodly, my fair love, look at her, how beautiful she looks in, and also how proud is she even lying like this. Then he compares he compares the sight of her lying in bed to that of Maya. Maya is a mountain goddess with whom Jove is Zeus. Zeus conceived Mercury. Mercury is also called as Hermes. Now, lying on the flowery twixt means in between sleep and awake. After she was very tired with bathing in the Acidalian brook. Brook means the stream. Now it is night. He is saying, now it is night. Ye damsels may be gone. You go now. Leave my bride alone. Leave my love alone. And leave likewise your former lay to sing. He is saying, leave now. And then the groom, comparing the wife lying on the bed to Maya, the mountain goddess, is very, very important here, because he is thinking about the future child. Here he is thinking about offspring, because here the legend and the tradition says that when a child is when the child is conceived on the summer solstice, would grow into prosperity and wisdom. That is why this connection is very, very important. Now welcome night, though night so long expected, that long day's labours dost at last defray, and all my cares which cruel love collected has summed in one and cancelled for aye. Spread thy broad wing over my love and me, that no man may us see, and in thy sable mantle us enwrap, from fear of peril and fall horror free. Let no false treason seek us to entrap, nor any dread disquiet once annoy the safety of our joy. But let the night be calm and quietsome, without tempestuous storms or sad affray, like as when Jove with fair Alcmena lay, when he begot the great Tyrrhenian groom, or like as when he with thyself did lie and begot majesty. And let the maids and young men cease to sing, nay, let the woods them answer, nor their echo ring. Now welcome night. Now finally the night has come, and he welcomes the night, and he says this night was so long expected. For so long he has been waiting for the night, and that long day's labor does at last defray. Now for the long day's labor, the work has been paid for, and finally the night is here, and he is requesting the night here. The night as a person, he is personifying the night, and he is saying, spread the broad wing over my love and me. He is saying, cover us, help us, cover us, and nobody should see us. Protect us in your sable mantle, enwrap us, cover us in your mantle, and protect us from perils. Fear of peril means the dangers and horrors, and protect us from them. And here he is also saying, nor any dread disquiet once annoy the safety of our joy. Our joy should not be interrupted by any disquiet. The night should be, he is asking, let the night be calm and quietsome. Let the night be very calm and quiet without any tempestuous storms, means without any disturbance, without any storms. It has to be quiet and sad affray. Sad affray means fear. The fear should be left off. Like as when, he is again alluding here to Zeus. Jove is Zeus when he lay with Alcmena. Means Alcmena is the one who produced the offspring Hercules, and when he begot the great Tyrrhenian groom here is Hercules, and the night on which Hercules was conceived was the night between the union of Jove and Alcmena was supposed to be thrice as long as usual. That means immediately here we can see that the poet's mind has moved past the consummation of marriage, and he is focused on offspring already when he is comparing Zeus and Alcmena's producing the child Hercules. So the focus has almost shifted to child from this union, and he is saying the majesty when he begot majesty. Begot means conceiving. Majesty means the quality and virtue the person has. And let the maids and young men cease to sing. Now he is saying all the maids means bridesmaids, and the young men stop singing. Now the night has come, and let them stop singing. Let no lamenting cries nor doleful tears be heard all night within nor yet without. Nay, let false whispers, breeding hidden fears, break gentle sleep with misconceived doubt. Let no deluding dreams nor dreadful sights make sadden sad affrights. Nay, let house fires nor lightings helpless harms. Nay, let the puck nor even evil sprites. Nay, let mischievous witches with their charms. Nay, let hobgoblins, names whose sense we see not, fray us with things that be not. Let not the shriek owl nor the stork be heard, nor the night raven that still deadly yells, nor damned ghosts called up with mighty spells, nor grisly vultures make us once afraid. Nay, let the unpleasant choir of frogs still croaking make us to wish their choking. Let none of these their dreary accents sing. Nay, let the woods them answer, nor their echo ring. Nay, let no lamenting cries. Lamenting means sad cries. Doleful tears means sad tears be heard all night within, means from the bridal chamber, from the bedroom, or from outside. He is saying, the Spencer is praying that no cry should be heard from within or from outside. Nay, let false whispers. False whispers means breeding hidden fears. There should not be any hidden fears. And break gentle sleep with misconceived doubt. Doubt means fear. Now, there should not be break in their gentle sleep with false fears. Let no deluding dreams nor dreadful sight. Deluding means maybe nightmares, not dreadful sights, horrible sights to look at should make sad affrights. And let house fires. Now he is saying, let there not be any house fires nor lightnings help the harmless people. And nay, let the puck is the mischievous or malicious spirit or goblin. Okay, he nor evil sprites. Now evil sprites are evil souls. Okay, these should not, and mischievous witches should not charm them. And hobgoblins means demons of lust, should not sense. Now names whose sense we see not, even the goblins they cannot see, should not make them afraid or terrify them. Fray means terrify them. So he is giving a long list of things which should not happen on this night. He is saying all these things like false whispers or doubts, and superstitious fears of witches, hobgoblins, ghosts, vultures, all these things he is specifying and saying that these all should not happen today. Lay net the screech owl. Now owl is a ill omen, bird of ill omen. Let it not screech. The screech of owl is screeching means the shouting of the owl is taken as an ill omen. Let us not be hear that. And of the stork. Stork is a kind of a bird. It is kind of an unclean bird. And night raven that still deadly yells. Night raven. Raven means a big crow, very black crow. Let it we should not hear to the raven's cries, he is saying. And no damn ghosts called up mighty spells. Ghosts should not cast spells on them. And nor grisly vultures make us once afraid. He doesn't want to hear to the vultures. And then he is saying the unpleasant choir of frogs croaking. That choir, he is saying a chorus of all the frogs croaking he doesn't want to hear, which makes him to choke their throats. He is saying he doesn't want to listen to them. The choir of frogs croaking. Let none of these their dreary accents sing. So he is saying we don't want to listen to all these sounds. But let still silence through night watches keep, that sacred peace may in assurance reign, and timely sleep when it is time to sleep may pour his limbs forth on your pleasant plain. The whiles and 100 little winged loves, like divers feathered doves, shall fly and flutter round about your bed, and in the secret dark that none reproves, their pretty stealth shall work, and snares shall spread to filch away sweet snatches of delight concealed through covert night. Ye sons of Venus, play your sports at will, for greedy pleasure, careless of your toys, thinks more upon her paradise of joys, that what you do, able it good or ill, all night therefore attend your merry play, for it will soon be day. Now none doth hinder you that say or sing, nay will the woods now answer, nor your echo ring. Now the groom bids silence to prevail. He wants silence throughout the night, and he says, now silence, look at the silence spelling. S is capital. Capital S is he is personifying. Silence is a god or goddesses that watch throughout the night to and ward away the evil spirits. So they keep watch over the night and they assure that it is peaceful. And that is what he is saying. And then he is saying timely sleep. They have to eventually sleep at night. So when the sleep comes, when it is time to sleep, they will sleep with a pour his limbs forth. Again sleep is personified here. So sleep will come and pour his limbs forth on their pleasant plain. Now again here pleasant plain means quietness of the night. Okay, quietness and the silence. The soldier who guards the night against enemies permits sleep to enter and soothe the passionate lovers temporarily. Silence is again personified here. The whiles and 100 little winged loves. Now he is saying these are the cupids. Now he is saying the cupids are to enjoy themselves as much as possible until daybreak. So flutter round the cupids, feathered doves, divers feathered doves. Feathered means wings, winged doves. Now here he is saying winged doves is winged loves, a reference to Cupid, but also to the sacred doves of Venus. They have to flutter around, they flutter around the bed and give them peace. And they pretty let the Cupid work their love on their bed, he is saying. And then he says, the poet turns back to enjoying his beloved bride, invoking the sons of Venus to play throughout the night. While he recognizes that sleep can and must come, he is saying until the day comes, until the day breaks, they can enjoy. Careless of your toys. Now toys here means love making. Careless of love making. They want to enjoy the paradise of joys until the day breaks. Who is the same which at at my window peeps? Or who is that fair face that shines so bright? Is it not Cynthia, she that never sleeps but walks about high heaven all the night? O fairest goddess, do thou not envy my love with me to spy? For thou likewise didst love, though now unthought, and for a fleece of wool which privily the Latmian shepherd once unto thee bought. His pleasures with thee wrought, therefore to us be favorable now, and sit of women's labours that has charge, and generation goodly does enlarge. Incline thy will the effect our wishful vow, and the chaste womb inform with timely seed that may our comfort breed, till which we cease our hopeful hap to sing. Nay, let the woods us answer, nor our echo ring. Now, who is the same which at my window peeps? Now, the poet is saying, who is that person who is peeping through the window? Whose is that fair face? Whose is that white face that shines so bright? So, he is asking, is it not Cynthia? Cynthia is a goddess of the moon. She is also called as Diana, who never sleeps. Throughout the night, she walks the high heaven. So the goddess of moon never sleeps at night. So he is asking, is it you, fairest goddess? Do not envy my love with me to spy. So he is saying, I am sharing my bed with my love. When you look at us, don't envy us, for thou likewise didst love. Means he is reminding Cynthia that once she also loved Endymion, a shepherd whom she saw sleeping nude in a cave on Mount Latmos after Zeus put him to perpetual sleep. Endymion gifted Cynthia a fleece of wool after she kissed him. That is what he was reminding her about her love to Endymion, and he says, look, don't envy our love, my love with my bride. Therefore to us be favorable now. He requests her, be favorable to us now, and sit of women labors thou hast charge. Now women labors thou hast charge means both Diana and Juno are invoked as the goddesses who bring light and preside over childbirth. These are the goddesses who look after the childbirth, and generation goodly dost enlarge. Enlarge means increase. The womb of the beloved bride, he is saying, the womb will enlarge with the future generation. Incline thy effect our wishful vow. He is saying, this is my wishful vow. Now chaste womb means she was a virgin before, and that is why he is saying, when through this consummation the timely seed should, so she should conceive during this night. He was asking, comfort breed. Now he is saying she has to conceive, and she should produce offspring, till which we seize our hopeful hap. What we hope for, and until what we hope for is for her to conceive today. And thou great Juno, which with often might the laws of wedlock still doth patronize, and the religion of the faith first plight with sacred rites has taught to solemnize, and eke for comfort often called art of woman in their smart, eternally bind thou this lovely band, and all thy blessings unto us impart. And thou glad genius, in whose gentle hand the bridal bower and genial bed remain without blemish or stain, and the sweet pleasures of their love's delight with secret aid does succour and supply, till they bring forth the fruitful progeny. Send us the timely fruit of the same night, and though fair Hebe, though hymen free, grant that it may be, till which we cease your further praise to sing. Nay, any wood shall answer, nor your echo ring. Now the groom adds more deities to his list of patron. He asks Juno, wife of Zeus and goddess of marriage, to make their union strong and sacred. Then he turns her attention towards making a fruitful, means she should have a offspring from this consummation. So he asks Hebe and Hymen to do the same for him. While asking Juno to bless the marriage, the speaker cannot stop himself from asking her to provide him with the offspring. He also invokes Hebe. Hebe is the goddess of youth, and Hymen is to make their wedding night one of fortunate conception as well as wedded bliss. While he does return to the hope or prayer that the marriage will remain pure, the speaker still focuses on the highest priority of the night, that is a production of the progeny. And that great Juno, with awful might the laws of wedlock, still doth patronize. Now Juno is the female counterpart of sky god Jupiter. Okay, the female goddess is protective of the sexual, maternal and childbearing functions of women. That is why he prays to great Juno. And awful might means awe-inspiring. Patronize is presiding deity. She is the Juno is the goddess who presides over the wedlock. Okay, and he goes on to talk about how women are smart. Here smart means pains. She has to take pain. The woman has to take pain, and then they will be blessed with a child. The bridal bower and genial bed remain without blemish or stain, means he is asking their marriage should be pure without any problems in their marriage. He requests the gods or deities so that their marriage will remain pure without any blemish or stain. And then he says sweet pleasures of their love's delight, means they should enjoy the marriage bed, and they should fruitful progeny bring forth the fruitful progeny, means they should conception should happen, and they should give Elizabeth Boyle should give birth. Progeny is offspring, fruitful progeny. Send us a timely fruit of the same night. He is asking this night she should conceive and she should bring forth the offspring. And though fair Hebe, he also prays to Hebe as well as Hymen to grant this wishes. And ye high heavens, the temple of the gods, in which 1,000 torches flaming bright to burn, that to us wretched earthly clods in dreadful darkness lend desired light, and all ye powers which in the same remain, more than we men can feign, pour out your blessing on us plenteously, and happy influence upon us reign, that we may raise a large posterity, which from the earth, which they may long possess, with lasting happiness, up to your haughty palaces may mount, and for the guerdon of their glorious merit may heavenly tabernacles there inherit, or blessed saints for to increase the count. So let us rest, sweet love, in hope of this, and cease till then our timely joys to sing. The woods no more as answer, nor our echo ring. Now, the groom utters on a prayer to all the gods in the high heavens. He says, they who flame bright, means who are very bright, who have 1,000 torches flaming bright, so who are so bright, who give desired light to the earth, which is always in the darkness, if not for the flaming bright from the heavens. He says all the powers remain in you, and you have to bless us, our marriage. He asks, bless this marriage. He asks them to give him large posterity. Large posterity means he wants generations of children. He is not only asking about an offspring, he wants the of many children, and those children should have many more children, and those followers, those children will ascend to the heavens in praise of the gods, means these children will be a kind of wise men. They will turn out to be wise men, and he encourages his bride. Now he says that these people will ascend to the high heavens. Now he ends this ode calling upon all the gods in the heavens to bear witness and shower their blessings upon the couple. He states that this blessing he would have for progeny, the children. He wishes nothing other than to have a child from this consummation of marriage today on the marriage day. Okay, and then he is saying these children will be so wise that they will fill up the world with wise men, generations of wise men. And then he is asking, so let us rest, sweet love. Finally he says, after consummation of the marriage, he tells Elizabeth Boyle that let us rest now. Hope this will happen. Hope we will have consummated a child from this union. Song made in lieu of many ornaments, with which my love should duly have been decked, which cutting off through hasty accidents, ye should not stay your due time to expect. But promise both to recompense, be unto her a goodly ornament, and for short time an endless monument. Now this is the last stanza. In this the groom addresses his song with the charge to be a goodly ornament for his bride, which he feels deserves many physical adornments as well, physical decorations as well. Time was too short to procure all these decorations for his beloved. So the groom hopes his ode will be an endless monument to her. Means this ode, this epithalamian ode he is writing for her. Okay, for her he has been writing this. Spencer follows Elizabeth convention, returning to the self-conscious meditation upon his ode itself. He asks this ode, which he is forced to give her in place of the many ornaments. Instead of decorating her with many ornaments, he says this ode will be suffice to say. This ode is that ornament to her. He asks, the time is very short and endless. This ode will be an endless monument to her, and the time is running short. That is why this will be perfection for her. This will be for eternity for her. This ode will be for eternity, he says. And with this we finish our epithalamion. I hope you had you learned something from this. Thank you for listening to me. Have a wonderful day. I'll meet you with my next